What is up, good people of Oak Life? This is Chris and Greg and Chris back at it again with yet another Roots and Branches. And today, we just got some, I guess, random conversations for you.
I get crazy when the mic round. No sense of getting hyped now. But
Yeah. So Chris and I were talking through, hey, what are we gonna talk about for today? And we got like a bunch of think of it as little cups that are all like 20 or 15% full, and we're like, what should we talk about? We have some ideas here, but is that worth it? So for our one current viewer, if you're able, let us know what do you want to hear? What do you want us to talk about? And this is why, if you're watching this at a later time, your voice is so important to the broader voice and dialogue that we have here at Oak Life. We want to hear what you want to hear. So if you can, get in the comments. If not, leave a comment for later because it'll help. It'll be good. It'll be good. So in the meantime, Chris, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, hanging in there. No.
How about that Super Bowl?
How about that Super Bowl? It was quite a blowout. Tom Brady won a football game.
Yeah, he won a football game, got 7 rings. So he's going to be the Mandarin shortly. That was an Iron Man reference for anyone who's unaware.
A Mandarin?
Yeah, so the Mandarin was Iron Man's nemesis in the comic books. If you watched, I think it was Iron Man 3, the bad guy's nickname was the Mandarin. And the Mandarin had many rings. He had 10 rings. Anyway.
Yeah, cool.
Knowledge there.
So that's not a Mandalorian reference. It's yeah.
Yep.
Should we talk about, I guess, Brian Scott, who is my pops as old guys roll?
Yo, my pops would concur. He was rooting for Tom Brady because Tom Brady's 42 and in NFL like world, that's old. So he's like, yeah, let's go for the old guys.
It's pretty impressive. It really is. Like, and I've heard his regiment is insane. Have you ever heard? There's like a joke in the internet world. Have you ever heard about fecal transplants? Yeah, it's probably the appropriate face for that word. But basically, it's the idea that there are like bacteria in our digestive system, and some of them are good and healthy, and what it's called like intestinal floral or something like that. And apparently, like everyone's like, Tom Brady must have the best, and if you can get it, it'll make you live forever. But you have to put somebody else's poop inside of you.
Sometimes I feel like this world is broken, bro. I just feel like we're humanity cracks me up sometimes, man. Like, what?
It's true. We come up with weird stuff.
We come up with weird stuff, man. We do some weird things here.
If you are watching us, Greg and I, every week we schedule a conversation at Tuesday or Mondays at 2, and we go for it. And sometimes we interview somebody. Sometimes there's a specific topic. And today we're like, we don't have anything. We didn't have any good idea. So if there's something you want to talk about, bring it up. Otherwise, we're just gonna like be awkward for a few minutes and say we love you. And that's pretty much it.
Pretty much it. To your point, to Chris's point, the idea of Roots and Branches is definitely a framework for Oak Life and how we conduct ourselves, branches to reach out, roots that go deep. And a lot of times for this section of time, we would either go deep into a conversation that we started on Sunday or kind of reach out and share some information about some partners or some collaborative efforts that are going on with Oak Life. But today we didn't go deep. What we could do is we could talk about Wanda Vision. Put that in the
yeah. So okay, all right, let's do that.
Hashtag links so that this video will have 100,000 views. Put it on there.
You talked on Sunday about joy in the darkness at church.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Brittany came and crushed it, and it was a good morning. And you talked a lot recently about Wanda Vision as something that gives you joy. So it kind of fits. So what is Wanda Vision? Why should I care? Because right now I don't. Convince me.
Okay. So I had a conversation with this individual will, for sake of honor and respect, they will remain unnamed, but they're a purist when it comes to the art of television and movies. And they're against anything and everything pretty much that Disney stands for from a capitalistic standpoint.
Young Sun Kim.
That said, WandaVision, right, is doing something that's really cool. The problem with WandaVision, this is just my honest critique, is that WandaVision is very similar to an inside joke. If you are inside the ecosystem of all things that is Marvel Cinematic Universe and kind of deemingly geek or nerd concepts, everything is lovely and beautiful, and it's the best thing since sliced bread. If you're outside of that joke, none of it makes sense. It seems pointless, and it seems like a waste of time. So it's really hard to explain an inside joke to someone who's outside. And in the same way, it's hard to try and convince someone who hasn't spent, I don't know, the past 10 years following the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So in my best effort, what I'll say is that from a business standpoint, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is under Disney. X-Men has been the most popular running kind of comic book as far as publicity and popularity and notoriety. That was under Fox, completely separate worlds. And because laws and because greed, they never really merged. WandaVision is going to be the bridge that connects the two, because Disney, the monopoly, has now purchased the rights to mutants and X-Men. Wanda is a mutant. Her father is Magneto, which is a part of the whole X-Men storyline. So she's going to be that anchor to bridge everything together. The thing that makes WandaVision so intriguing is that it's displayed like it's a sitcom. The first episode was in the 50s. The second episode was based on television in the 60s, then the 70s, so on and so forth. So the amount of detail that goes into how they portray this show, it's just so good. There's Easter eggs for people who were fans of old television. There's Easter eggs for people who are comic book fans. There's Easter eggs for people who know the business side of Marvel. There's just so much depth to every episode. That's what makes it so, just imagine taking a bite into like a very, very rich, delicious piece of your favorite whatever, and you can taste all the flavors, or for the wine drinkers that, oh, there's so many nodes of, like, that's what WandaVision is like, because there's so much invested into it. Again, if you don't know the stuff, it's kind of hard to appreciate it, though.
It's good. And that, I like that stuff, like the depth, and there's more of it everywhere. Like you mentioned wine. My dad, I don't know if he's still watching or not, but he could do that with different wines. It's definitely true of like the scriptures. There's so much richness to it. Like there's so many layers and surrounding storylines and intricate details. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else like that are you into? Like, what
That's so funny. You mentioned the scriptures. Right now I'm in theology. I'm in seminary studying a class about reflecting on theology. So we're looking at scripture, and at my parallel class that I take 2 classes is how to interpret the Bible. So one class is thinking about scripture, and the other one is providing tools to interpret scripture. So they kind of pair well. There's a lot of overlap. Mm-hmm. And the creation story has been like the past focus for one of the courses. And it's just so deep. There's just so much into this one story that we've heard so many times and kind of written off in some ways. And yeah, the Bible is another one of those things that is like, if you are inside, you have some understanding as to what is really like happening and taking place. It's so good. And then if you're outside, it doesn't make sense, and then it turns you off, and it kind of sucks when that happens.
Yeah, that's one of my. On Sunday, somebody asked, "Are human evoke life? What's something that makes you angry?" And people who, from anything, like whatever if it's film, if it's theater, if it's whatever, like when we reduce things to like a overly simplified like explanation of it, that makes me angry, especially around scriptures. Like we all listen to a lot of podcasts nowadays, but like there's a really popular one, Dax Shepard, Armchair Expert, and he has some really interesting people on the show. But he had Nadia Bowles-Weber on once because he's an atheist, and everyone was like, "Hey, this is like the Christian you'd probably actually like." or you'd maybe hear their perspective. And he talks about the Bible just in general, like with a super reductive view of it, like somebody wrote it and then they claimed it was from God and then just passed it on. It's like, no, there's so much more to it. It's like this collection of books that evolved over time, and if you read it in the original languages, it's like poetry at the level of like a Shakespeare or whatever. Like, so yeah, when people they look at Marvel, for instance, and there's like, whatever, like no shade to Young, but because I get the commercialized thing that he's probably so what does that say? Like, it means there's richness and depth like everywhere if we look for it, if we start to appreciate it, and not just like categorize and whatever everything. What's making you? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say what's interesting is that the whole categorization. I think we talked about this on a couple of Sundays. The whole categorization tactic that our brain employs on the world is inherently ours. It's in our DNA. It's in our wiring. It's how our brain has been programmed for survival. And what I find interesting is that when you talk about things that make you angry, we have been designed for survival at our like base core, right? Think of like when you get a phone or you get a computer. No one ever buys a piece of tech like that and doesn't add stuff to it. But so often as humans, we will just be like, I'm okay with my base operating system and I'm not going to add anything, no new perspectives, no new insights. And I'm just going to conduct myself as such and then expect the world to like operate how I understand it. And when people operate like that in a way that is now going to inflict like pain on individuals. So let's say this interviewer, right, says, okay, yeah, the Bible is just a book written by man and passed off as something by God. Hey, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. But then if that same person is going to go now try to stir up trouble for other people who want to read the book and want to subscribe to a lifestyle of faith, then it's like, come on, that's frustrating. Why would you do that? But anyway.
Yeah, so to project that overly simplified view onto others. And that's like a fundamental, we should be curious and ask questions and like expect that everybody and everything has stuff to teach us. Like, that's a big thing. People like, I think there's this idea that like we should have our convictions. Mm-hmm. Like, here's the 10 things I believe about the world, and I'm going to hold on to that the rest of my life. And I think there's some virtue to consistency, to faithfulness, to like holding on to some values. But in general, like if you're not learning and growing, I think we could be missing out on stuff. You just kind of get stuck. And so I see that true of like our view of other humans, of our view of theology, that there's something good about growing. And I think the fear is that we grow into something like bad or like there's somebody manipulating the growth and they have an agenda. But in general, my experience has been that, which is limited, if you're walking the path of love in relationship with community, trying to love people and love God, whatever your underlying values might be, but holding it open, your growth, your openness grows you to learn more, to be able to hold more perspectives. So I guess it's a matter of what's underneath it. If it's like love and compassion and empathy, or is it rebellion? Like you just want to be different, so you want to grow and change and toss out like the old views for the new views. Because I can see that not being healthy.
Yeah,
I've done that before too.
Yeah, you do that every time I want you to take up boxing or jiu-jitsu, bro. You don't do it, man. You're rebellious, Chris.
Hi, Alma. Yeah, I agree with you. Bible is, I think it is like the most published book in the history of the world. And fun fact, there's actually a lot of languages that it's not translated into yet. There's whole projects on trying to get it translated. I think there's like 6,000 languages in the world. I don't know. I'm making this up. Thousands of languages, and thousands of them that do not have a translation of the Bible. And people have different takes on how we approach missionary work, but there's something kind of cool about it being accessible, at least to everybody. And we've got some friends who are doing that in Papua New Guinea. Like they learned this language to be able to translate it. This language that like a few hundred people spoke. But yeah, probably you're probably right.
Yeah.
Especially the majority. It's like languages like small spoken languages that are not as commonplace. But yeah, I would say the majority like Mandarin and English and Spanish. Like it's definitely, and that's remarkable. What an amazing feat.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're just joining us, we didn't have a topic today, so we just hit record and we're just talking. So if you're hanging with us, thank you. Our parents are our biggest fans. But if you have something you want us to talk about, you want to ask a question, make it as a gotcha question. You want us to talk about your favorite TV show?
100%.
Go for it. We'll hang out for a few more minutes and just chat.
So Chris, I'm clearly, like I said, fanboy over here, watching the Wanda Vision, doing the thing. What are some things that you're doing to find joy? How are you? Aside from running, because we know that everyone knows that you're a runner. What else are you doing?
I need to run more. I guess we have to go back and watch Greg talk about WandaVision. Lots of things. I miss a lot of things that used to bring me joy. And I see a comment. Well, okay, we can talk about that. I'll get into that in a sec. But let's see, simple things. About a record player, music, being able to like sit down and listen to music. About my first record is coming in a couple weeks from an artist I like that I've heard it described as like reading a book versus like a Kindle.
Mm-hmm.
To sit down and like have a tangible copy and all that stuff. It's just kind of a fun experience. So music, kids, people like that. We have a couple pod kind of relationships that like we're cautious and safe about with like some family and our neighbors and a couple other people. But it's good to be with people and I miss it. It does something for me.
Yeah.
So lots of things. The Warriors actually bring me a lot of joy. Watching Steph Curry, oh man, he's been so good this year. Right, they have no Clay this year. They're not like the behemoth like team that they were a couple years ago, and they had KD and they were just running in all cylinders. So Steph is kind of the main scorer of the team, and that dude is so good. Watching him, and he plays with joy. Like that's
yes.
There's like a whole discussion. People talk about the Warriors like they're not playing for competition or like aggression or like to win. They're playing because they love it. And everyone, it's pretty well known how like good of a dude Steph is. And I just love watching him play. And so he scored like 57 points the other night. They lost, but he scored. It was just so fun to watch. I brought me joy.
That's good. The Warriors are the reason that me and Andy started talking, and neither one of us are Warriors fans.
You're not Warriors fan.
I'm not. Right? No, so by default, I'm a Warrior fan. I'm just not a big sports fan, but I do support our local sports teams. That's for sure. So yeah, I think Matt wants us to talk about a very, very pertinent conversation. I'm assuming this is Matt because of the ding.
It is Matt. I double checked.
Yeah, I know you, boy. Yeah. We had a conversation with Rachel Goebel, who in this kind of detailed look at ethical storytelling put forth this effort to not have a villain, because so often we like to demonize certain things and idolize other things. And that said, I do have that tendency to try and find out what the villain is. When we see things like racial injustice, and we can tie it back to a system and we can tie it back to poor practices, to me, it's like it's easier to see the steps to take, to steps to provide certain actions. With this recent attack on the Asian community, like I don't even know where to tie this to. Like, what does this go back to? What are some ways to to help and be supportive. And I have some friends that have posted things and say, hey, if you want to be an ally, these are the things that you should be doing. And I very much appreciate that. Um, yeah, Chris and I was talking about this topic actually earlier, and I was just saying it just doesn't. There's not that it should make sense, but I'm like, where did this hostility come from? I'm still trying to figure that out. Any thoughts, Chris?
Yeah. So Matt was cool with us saying his name. Sorry, Matt. If you're just joining us, the question. So we're trying to get people to tell us what to talk about. We didn't have a subject today, so we did Wanda Vision, Steph Curry, some other stuff. But if you've been following the news recently, you've seen that there's an uptick in violence against the Asian community in Oakland, San Francisco, probably other places too. And it's some of it like has been recorded, documented, and some very graphic videos of people getting like senselessly shoved to the ground. And it does open up a deep history of things. And then there was a press conference held shortly after with our here in Oakland, our Mayor Libby Schaaf, and she politicized it. And some would argue did the kind of divide and conquer game. So as a white person in power, there is a history of pitting marginalized communities against one another in order to maintain the status quo for you and let them fight over there and think that the issue is each other, rather than like the bigger, broader system. And I think it was incredibly naive for her to not be more thoughtful in the way she had a disagreement. Because I think it's okay to have a disagreement with a fellow council member, but the optics and the moment that they were in, it's complicated. So the history, I think, is that majority dominant culture benefits from having conflict amongst the minorities and for them to see each other as the enemy. And in America, I think you can go back to LA riots and various things where the issue is racism, which is historically about white supremacy in America. Mm-hmm. The issue is not the Black community versus the Asian community, though that is a side effect of communities being marginalized and often having to deal with poverty and injustice. So it's one of those things. It's like our friend Bianca posted a great kind of a brief overview. She does these really great little storybooks that give some accessible information and framework on justice issues, especially around race. She's an Asian American professor who's used to be a part of our community. But yeah, so I think on one hand, there's like the momentary, it's like senseless, like what the heck just happened? Why? And it makes no sense. And then if you take all that to the backdrop, you see the context of it, and it's just complicated. But the what's not complicated is that it's not okay.
Right. True.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I haven't, Matt, if we have like an answer or anything, as much as like to say we got to be better at being allies and seeking solidarity, like, which is, I think, a Christian ethic of like being with people, being not just an ally, but like being one, like we're connected. And so anytime there's division amongst categories of people, that's anti-Jesus. Mm-hmm. So like the theological piece of me is like, oh, this is evil. Like this is bad. Mm-hmm. And I think people in majority culture like myself need to say such and honor and acknowledge the history of why these groups have been pitted against each other historically.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think it all does kind of stem back to the same evils in our history, and they just kind of lash out in various ways. And then entire people groups are kind of like caught in the crossfire of this one kind of agenda, which is super sad. Some of the posts in regards to allyship is mostly around keeping the conversation going and not and highlighting the experiences that are not the majority experiences. And any way that we can do that, I think we should. I think that's super good. I think I'm always going to be a fan and an advocate for using art to tell stories. So I'm gonna I'm thinking of a few artists I want to link up with and see if there's anything that we can do to continue to amplify what's really happening. And I think the more that we do stand together, the more different groups stand together, um, it's just prone to lead towards some type of healing. But, yeah, to your point, I don't know if we have the answer. Yep. I think even mentioning this in this moment is important. You're right. You facts.
And Matt's what I love about Matt is Matt puts boots on the ground. Like his convictions. Sorry to put you on the spot, Matt, but like, so in response to the violence in Chinatown in Oakland, and there was some people who organized and did like a peace walk. I don't know what the right term would be, but like an act of solidarity to walk as community, saying we stand against these things. We're here. We're present. We're free. But he does so much just offering that skill and that gift to the community. So that the history is deep. The problem is it's hard to like untangle. It's a big one and it's real. But looking to people who are doing stuff and being a light.
Oh my gosh, y'all got to go check this out. Some of these shots are like amazing. And this is kind of a separate thing. Like this one's so good. Like, man, the lighting and the composition, it's just absolute fire. And then you have the general page, which has a ton of amazing stuff. And this is just the stuff that's shown. It's not even the stuff that's like geared towards broader political concepts and whatnot. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, I just put you on blast, man. Hope you're okay with that. If not, my bad. It's your friend Ramon, but it's also you, man. You got some good stuff, brother. You got some good stuff.
Somebody else agreeing how awesome Matt is. I think this is maybe Say. If you're just joining us with the few more minutes we got, we're just Greg and I logged on, and today we're like, I don't know what we should talk about. Let's just jump on and see how the conversation goes. Often we'll have a topic, but feel free to bring something up you want us to talk about. With a few more minutes we got left, we tried to at least acknowledge and say things about the crime against the Asian community right now, some of the stuff that's going on, and consider, like with all these issues, it's like, okay, where's Jesus? How does our faith invite us to respond to these things, rather than like, what is the news telling us?
Yeah,
it's like hashtags telling us, like, which there's utility to all those things, but like primarily like, how do we move in love and grace and empathy and the kingdom? And that will look different for people, different places in the conversation. Like as a white dude, it's going to be a different response in love than somebody else. But
yeah, big facts.
What's up, Say?
Say knows what it is.
Say
knows what it is. Just one more time. Look at that. That is fire. All right, I'm done. I'm done being a fanboy, Matt. Sorry, bro.
I know. I've got some photos of Matt's in our hallway. They're good.
So good, dude. So freaking good. Yeah, man. I ain't got nothing else, bro.
Okay.
I've been doing kettlebelling, and kettlebelling's awesome. So if you're interested in learning the ways of the CrossFit warrior as it relates to kettlebell work, I have some resources for you.
No, thanks. I'm just kidding. Actually, I think I know what a kettlebell is. It's like a ball with the thing on top. Is that a kettlebell? And you do stuff like that? Cool.
Oh man, dude. Yeah. It's been good, y'all.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us. Legit, if anybody has a topic you want us to cover, a person you want us to interview, this is just a chance to check in and keep the touch points in the community going, and say what's up to people. And this was a different one just because it's random conversations.
And this platform is your platform. So if you got something to say, Let's say it here together.
Somebody thinks we said good things. Love you
Fire.
too.
Love you, moms. All right, man. I'm about to close this thing, Chris. Anything you want to say?
Nope.
Hold on. One more thing. How do kettlebells look? How do people use kettlebells? Does it look like when people use it?
Triangle with the ball.
And then what do they do with it?
Up and you like. That's not.
I ain't got a hoop.